Welcome to Dune Chapter by Chapter. I'm Dominic, and in this episode, I'm going to be discussing Chapter 8. So, this is a chapter that really gives you a good look at Dr. Yueh. You really get a good sense of the kind of position he's in and what his motivations are. I mean, you kind of got to get a bit more of it in the previous chapters, but this really cinches home what kind of an emotional trap he's in. He's being forced to betray people that he really loves and that he cares about, and it's all being done because of the Harkonnens, and there's not really anything he can do. He's kind of in a position where he's powerless, and he's in a desperate situation that there's only one way he can see that he can strike back at the enemy, because his thirst for revenge is overwhelming everything else in his mind. So I really liked how the chapter points that out and really shows that emotional struggle he's having. And the other thing in this chapter that's interesting is we get to see that Lady Jessica has some limitations on her abilities as a Bene Gesserit. She's not a full truth sayer, unlike Yueh's wife Wana, who was. She had full truth seeing abilities, where Jessica doesn't have the full ability. So he's able to actually fool Jessica in this chapter of what his true emotions are and what his true feelings are, because the Bene Gesserit can just read people like crazy. And it's interesting how he does it in this chapter. I always thought that was really interesting, that he uses truth as far as it will take him. That's always the best way to mask his lies, as he'll say as much truth as he possibly can about any situation, because then he's generally speaking truth, right? All his body language and everything about him, he's being honestly truthful. And then how he kind of like fakes being embarrassed or comes off as embarrassed to use that as a way to mask any strange behavior that she might pick up on, because now Jessica will think of it as as him just being embarrassed because he went and called her by his first name when he didn't think it was appropriate. And then so you have that's really interesting, and how his wife actually trained him in a lot of the Bene Gesserit ways, or things she taught him about the Bene Gesserit that helps him be able to mask his feelings or hide from their truth-saying abilities as best he can. But even still, Lady Jessica kind of knows there's something up with him, and that he's not giving everything fully away, but she kind of chalks up to, maybe it's embarrassment, or it's the position that we're in. And then he brings her, even goes so far to tell her that, the Harkonnens killed his wife, and that he, tells Jessica the history of his wife and how the Harkonnens killed her. So he's being truthful, very truthful, up to a point with everything. So it makes it harder for her to read him. So I thought that was really interesting how he did that, how he used truth to mask his lies, or to help him fool Jessica's truth-saying abilities. And also in this chapter, I thought it was interesting, is it goes further to highlight how desperate people are for water on Arrakis. So it points out that, the Harkonnens would always raise the price of water, and then the people who are really poor, because the Harkonnens didn't care, the people that are really poor, they would just die off, the poor people. And how it was like a constant thing, and it's like a constant thing that's on every person's mind every day of living on this really harsh planet. And that's highlighted really well by the palm trees that are outside the window there, as Dr. Yueh's watching all the different people walk by. And Jessica notices it too, that everyone that looks at those palm trees, they all see something different. Some see hope, some see like an extravagant waste of water, because one palm tree goes through so many liters of water a day, and those so many liters of water a day could keep 100 people alive. So each one of those trees is worth the lives of 100 people. And so it really hits home how desperate people are on Arrakis for this. And you kind of get a little bit more of a description how Arrakis' skies, even the daylight is always kind of darker. It's got a darker sky, and that's because of the water, lack of moisture in the air. And then kind of gets into the puzzle. Well, there is moisture on this planet. Every time they dig for a well, there's water there trickles for a while, and then it immediately dries up, as if something's blocking the water. But nobody knows what's doing it. It's kind of like a mystery on this planet. And then the other thing about this is we get a little bit more detail on the spice and they talk about, you know, the first time you took spice, you know, how it's never tastes the same way or twice, and it's a kind of like a learned response. It's a learned flavor. So everyone's experience with spice is going to be unique. Like my experience would not be the same as somebody else if I took spice. That was interesting too. So yeah, a lot of interesting things in this chapter with Dr. Yueh, and you know, being in this position where you have to betray your own friends. It always made me wonder if he had come out and just told the Atreides, like, this is what's going on. The Harkonnens have my wife, and this is what they want me to do, and all this kind of thing. How that would have played out, or did he ever consider that or think about that? That's interesting too, and how the Harkonnens actually broke his imperial conditioning by getting through to him through his wife, and his ultimate plan, and to get back at the Baron Harkonnen, like in his weakest moment. His weakest moment is going to be when he's gloating, like he knows that that's the weakness of the Baron, his own ego and his need to gloat about defeating his enemies. And now Dr. Yueh is going to exploit that to get back at him. And so interesting stuff. So a really interesting chapter. This was an interesting chapter. There's stuff that happens in chapter, but it's not like super. There's some chapters that are a little bit more deeper than others, and some of the themes and ideas presented in them. But I guess the most interesting thing in this is it kind of points out a little bit of a weakness in Jessica's abilities. I thought that was interesting, and again highlights how desperate the need is for water on Arrakis and stuff like that. So yeah, interesting stuff. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I will see you at the next one.